That's your pussy. Yeah, that's what they call it. No, I don't know if they call it that, but I do call the city of Wayne the most incompetent police department in the state of Michigan. Perhaps the Midwest, or perhaps even the United States of America. But definitely the state of Michigan, without a doubt. The city of Wayne Police Department is the most. I don't know. I mean, it's, again, like we said all along. I mean, it is pure evil, without a doubt, and it is 100% illegitimate as far as the eye can tell. I mean, perhaps, perhaps the city of Wayne Police Department is just, not showing us something that, we're just, or maybe there's something we're just not seeing, right? That would counter this opinion. But I mean, I really can't, for the life of me, try to wrap my mind around the I mean, vindictiveness, maliciousness, of course, but beyond that, just kind of like, you're dealing with some fucking retarded people, dude. Like, these department heads, I mean, I don't use that term like it means nothing, but incompetent, obviously is the more, politically correct term, but really, I mean, these people are just fucking retarded, and I would probably say you should include the fucking, so the fucking retarded, because retarded just isn't enough to describe, well, you know, it's fucking, guys, I mean, I want to, I mean, what I intend to do is get all of the police files on each and every one of these people, and I'd like to get a copy of every police report they've ever drafted. Okay. And then I want to go through all of that. And from there, we shall see. Well, let's start with the people that, have violated my rights. So we'll start with March 28, 2024 and May 9th, 2025, right? We'll use those 2 days. May 10th, really, as well. I mean, let's be honest, you really got to include that. Really, the days preceding that, or succeeding that. You get to about, May 19th, of course, that's just when shit just, I mean, that's the most insane day, one of the most insane days, perhaps, the city of Wayne has ever experienced. I mean, total disaster, constitutionally speaking. In every single way possible, right? I mean, you're literally talking every way possible. Everything wrong with policing, everything wrong with government in general, right? Is, ultimately it's too big, it's got too much power. Of course, way too much fucking power. And clearly there's no, effective checks and balances, right? I mean, let's call it what we, should call it, checks and balances. I mean, there just doesn't appear to be any. And yeah, you can clearly tell by, different things. So it is July 5th, 2020. I just want to go onto his property to piss him off. That's the only reason I want to go. I mean, that right there is like, icing on the cake, really. I mean, as far as I can see, I mean, But then it's like really you have, the appeal, right? You have a criminal appeal now, and so, that's going to create some sort of you know, a record of some kind, right? And who knows what's going to happen? Who the fuck knows, right? I don't know. You don't know. People versus Moreno, right? 2012, I believe. Yeah, I mean, nobody knows, right? It's all up for some judge's opinion, right? So hopefully it's a good judge and, a fair judge and an impartial judge. And I mean, clearly, if it's an impartial judge, you'll, see the light of day here, right? That, you know, I'm just a guy that refused to be silenced and a guy that refused to toe the fucking line, right? Um, I mean, I was forced to toe the line, right, several times, against my will, coerced, right? But I mean, ultimately, I'm just, a veteran of this country who said enough is enough, right? I mean, I'm nobody special. I'm nobody unique. I'm just, I'm just a guy that's, can notice some things and is bold enough to say it, I guess, which I guess I might be rather bold, right, as a person, but um, I really just don't understand the level of idiocy that I see, like I see from the City of Wayne Police Department. It is, it's unfortunate, right? Because we the people deserve a fully functioning and competent police department, but I don't know, guys. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna happen. I mean, obviously, you fire, you get new leadership, right? That can certainly help, but I mean, we have to get enough new leadership, right? It's going to take more than a couple of people. It's going to take, half a dozen or more people, right? Realistically, and probably more than that, um, to really turn this dog shit around, right? Because it is dog shit, right? I mean, let's just call it what it is, but doesn't have to be dog shit, right? I mean, and there are other options besides just, continuing to take the fist elbow deep in the ass, right? I mean, you don't got to go and take it, anymore, guys. You can really just say enough is enough, and of course, vote, right? Vote for common fucking sense, right? Vote for community, because I mean, right now, I mean, as you can see, there's not much of a community, and it's a fragmented community. And that's very this whole kind of wetland restoration project that I've been working on for the last couple of years. I mean, it's really come to fruition, and it is, obviously my biggest thing, right, is like our wetlands are being decimated, right, here in Michigan. They're popping up data centers everywhere, completely obliterating wetlands. Livonia just obliterated a wetland. Westland has in the past. I mean, a lot of wetland has been obliterated, um, and it's very, very alarming, right? It's very, very alarming. And I don't know, like, see, I'm, creating a bald cypress and Tupelo forest and doing some other things as well, but I'm trying to put a long-term wetland, right, protected wetland, into existence. And, to make it a true wetland, right, I mean, obviously, pond is important, right, aspect of that for a number of reasons. Um, but ultimately, the city of Wayne has failed to maintain their wetlands for quite some time, and as a result of that, it's caused a lot of issues, ecologically speaking, and it's just the simple fact of the truth, right? Is the city of Wayne does not, you know, maintain sidewalks. They don't maintain the parks. They don't do shit. Is more worried about, Lori Gowen and Lisa Kobani at the Downtown Development Authority. And then, of course, my first question is, well, what downtown development, right? And what authority, right? Those are my two questions, right? But, obviously, you're spending millions of dollars, right? Since 2018, perhaps tens of millions of dollars. And Lori Gowen is a complete and utter fucking pinhead, right? And Lisa Kobani is beyond pinhead. I don't even know what the fuck to call Lisa Kobani yet. I'm still traumatized by her actions to slam a door into me, right? Slam a door into me on May 20th, 2026, right? And then, of course, it's all captured on video. There's two video cameras facing that exact door, angled perfectly. And all of a sudden, they're claiming now, the officer Bartis, he's claiming that the that building parking lot didn't have any cameras. And of course, that is not the case. There are, in fact, those two cameras, right, facing that door. And so, of course, they captured everything, and they show what I showed in my video, which is, Lisa Kobani, using a door as a weapon to make contact with me. That's called battery. And she committed a battery against me, and she did it intentionally, and she did it maliciously, right? She did it with malice. And not to anybody at all. And in fact, she was the one that was entirely escalating the situation. As far as, she instigated it and she caused the situation, right, with her actions. I had no interaction previously with her. But yeah, she's, banging on the window and screaming and, flipping people off and trying to get my attention, of course. And so I did what any, reasonable citizen would do, and that would be to record for my safety, and as well as for truth, for truth keeping purposes, let's say. And it clearly showed what it clearly showed. And yeah, for Bartis to say that, well, there's no footage of that at all, right? And then, of course, for his so-called boss, Deputy Chief Finley Carter III, for him to say that the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office reviewed the case, when in fact it would appear, right, unless they're lying to me, right, it would appear that that was a fucking lie, because Mr. Carter himself later confirmed that in a future email, where he stated that the case was actually, in fact, handled by Carrie Miller, right? Carrie Miller is the same malicious prosecutor from May 9th, 2025, where she decided to somehow find probable cause for an arrest and bond conditions, right? Bond conditions and arrest and so forth. She found probable cause when, in fact, the police department and the fire department broke into my residential curtilage, my home, right? That's what the Fourth Amendment says. And they did this without a warrant, without my consent. They bypassed consent. In fact, they didn't even try to get consent. They against warrantless searches and unreasonable searches, right? And yeah, that was bypassed, right? Consent was bypassed, and the exigency, simply, there was no exigency, in fact, and the city never, acted like there was, or, their actions certainly didn't show that. And in fact, they don't even make a claim of any exigency, really, in the police report. Kind of, sort of in the fire report, but not really, because you look at, there's no casualties, property damage, all that. So you're like, okay, so there's not really a true emergency here, right? And so it's not an exigency. There's no life or death situation here. So you're like, well, and oh, by the way, I'm sorry for noticing, right, guys? This is what really got me in trouble, is because I noticed, in fact, that the ordinance, so-called ordinance that they were claiming that they were enforcing, was in fact just a policy, open burn policy, and so that was a small detail, right, that they tried to kind of pretend like it didn't really matter, or it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know, they just ignored it somehow, or the judge, I don't know. I mean, I'm still in shock, right, that two so-called judges that so-calledly graduated from law school, as well as two, well, Bosnick and Kerry Miller, those are both attorneys supposedly. So you got four attorneys so far, and then of course you got Jermaine Warwick and the other guy. um, so well, actually you got him, and then you got the public attorney. So you got three or four attorneys total. William Mays, he was the only one that actually acknowledged. You guys know I don't have any good feelings towards William Mays. I think he's a piece of shit, but he in fact was the only one to put in a motion, right, to put in writing that there was in fact no actual ordinance. And so, but Jermaine Warwick and the other guy, Mod or whatever his name is, Moud or whatever, Marad, he, didn't even, care to mention it. It was really weird, right? It was like, okay, three defenders, because you got to include the public defender. And so you're like, okay, you got basically like seven or so lawyers, right, that all conveniently missed the fact, right? Let's use some air quotes here. Missed the fact that there was in fact no codified ordinance, even though clearly as day you can see by the own paper itself, right? You can see that there is the word ordinance. It's clearly not an ordinance, right? There's no ordinance number, there's no date it was signed into law or made into effect. So you're like, okay, interesting, right? Very, very interesting. And so, of course, I requested a lot of discovery, right? A lot of discovery in that case, pertaining to the open burn policy and the history of it and whatnot, right? I really wanted to dive into, deliberate incompetence, right? Exactly. But I really wanted to dive into, that open burn policy, this so-called authority, right, that they published on their website under, multiple times on their website, in fact, and made sure that it was publicly accessible, right? Because it was operable law, right? That's what I was told, and that's what their story was for many, many months, right? I mean, the fire chief himself said that's our ordinance, even though it's not an ordinance at all. But they call those things, right? Where I guess if you speak a lie enough times, it becomes the truth or something, right? I'm not quite sure exactly the retard, logic, right, that we're supposed to believe, right? But yeah, I mean, just really clown world bizarre shit, right, guys? And yeah, it makes you really, really, really wonder. It makes you really scratch your chinny chin and go, huh, interesting. But see, I'm the bad guy, guys, because I'm the one who noticed, right? I'm the one who noticed it, and that's the real crime, right? The real crime is noticing the obvious, right? That's the real crime. Because that is dangerous and costly, right? Because then you gotta start firing people and really start doing some evaluations, right? And really start to look at everything in its entirety. But yeah, it's some freaky deaky shit, guys. I mean, it really truly is. It's some it's fucked. It's totally fucked. Yeah, I'm an anomaly they never thought they would encounter. Well, yeah, I guess. And like I said, they've been doing this shit a long time, right? The Blackwell standard is a real thing, right? The Blackwell standard. That's what the what was it, the circuit court or the U.S. District Court, right? I think it was the circuit court. But yeah, that's what they determined, right? That this, that Blackwell essentially totally and utterly retaliatorily prosecuted. I think that was the theory. Maliciously prosecuted, essentially, you know, charged with several, I believe, definitely one felony. I think it was two, or a high level misdemeanor for one, but it was definitely a felony stalking. They charged him with felony stalking initially. Um, because she, well, took a picture of somebody or something and drove a car on a road and some other shit. So, over multiple years time span, and that was somehow evidence of a crime or something, or harassment, right, or stalking, right, felony stalking. That's what it was. So yeah, they charged him, and of course the judges, the courts didn't buy it, right? They weren't buying what the city of Wayne was selling, and so city of Wayne got in a lot of trouble for that. Thank God, because that's when I guess that's when the cat was out of the bag, right? That's when it was right obvious and clear as fucking day, and you know it's just like, why do we even have to deal with this shit, right? Why are we even talking about this? Well, because the city of Wayne, for whatever fucking reason, not quite exactly sure, other than just deliberate incompetence, right? Like, just like deliberately indifferent to the incompetence because you're getting paid, and fuck it, just keep the grift up as long as you can, I guess. And then there's no like consequences for them, right? Like, there's no real penalty for bankrupting the city, and fucking leaving the city in disarray like shit, and I mean, just grifting, right? Because I mean, like, the Downtown Development Authority, right, 2018 it was established. I mean, that's a fucking joke, right? I mean, that's a fucking joke. Where's the results at, people? The results are not anywhere, right? Because it's all a fucking grift, and it's a scam, and it's all it is, right? It's all a fucking complete and total and utter fucking lie and cheat and scandal. And I mean, that's just the reality of it, guys. I mean, it's fucking obvious. It's obvious to anyone. Um, show me the results. Show me something fucking tangible. You know, show me how much money was spent, how much money you consumed, and what you have to show for it. Right? It's all. It's all we need to look at. And downtown development, right? Downtown is fucking deserted. What development? I mean, downtown is fucking ghost town. Ghost town, downtown ghost town, right? Gowdy Park's, all lit up and, you know, kept kept up, right? I guess a little bit. But everything else, everything around it, the building, everything else, everything, right? It's fucking falling apart. It's falling apart, and I mean, just look at the wetlands, right? Look at those. I mean, holy fucking shit, guys. I mean, we're talking like, you know, we're gonna have some problems with some real flooding, right? We're gonna have some real floods in the city of Wayne, like, you know, and yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, like, not supposed to be like that, but fucking doofus 1 and doofus 2 and doofus 3 and doofus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and fucking 10, 11, 12, 13 more probably, whoever else, I mean, there's a lot of, it's not that many people, but it's upwards of probably a dozen or so dumbasses, right? A dozen or so, right? But yeah, I mean, like Ryan Strong, right? I mean, like, chief of police, right? That's a fucking joke, right? That's disgusting, right? That is an absolute fucking travesty. That's how Satan's real, is because he's anywhere near any sort of position like that at all, right? I mean, that, when you, like, the way they maliciously prosecuted Mark Blackwell, those people, I mean, the fact that they're still employed by the city of Wayne is just, I mean, it tells you everything you need to know, right? I mean, you don't, Ryan Strong and Finley Carter, they both, collaborated on that and decided, hey, we're gonna listen to No Serini, right? That was the thing, right? And it's like, well, if you can be influenced by, blonde-haired woman like No Serini, right? If you can be influenced by her to such an extent that you're willing to literally make up charges against a completely innocent man, I mean, you're kind of like Satan's asshole, right? I mean, for a lack of, imagination, I guess that's what I would, envision, right? That's what you guys are, right? Satan's fucking asshole. So the fact that Satan's asshole still works for the city of Wayne, not only works for the city of Wayne, but has been promoted several times, in fact, right? That's where you kind of have to go, holy motherfucking shit, right? I mean, this is some really, 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 really corrupt fuck shit. And boy, right? Well, unfortunately, um, one person. What am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna observe and report, right? That's of course what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna observe and report, because that's what I've been trained to do first and foremost. And I'm gonna commentate it, and I'm gonna try to enjoy the decline, right? Because that's ultimately all we can really do here is enjoy the decline. Because the city of Wayne is, in fact, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but if you look at the state of our wetlands, that should tell you, right? Look at the state of our wetlands and look at the state of downtown, right? And that will tell you everything you need to know. Okay. But yeah, take a look on the east side, downtown, and then of course our, once beautiful wetlands. And at least I'm making my portion of it. I'm gonna try to set an example, right? Of course, the city of Wayne's trying to tear that down and prevent that. Yeah, let's fence it in. Let's hide the wetland, right? Let's hide the water from the animals, and that's how you restore that's how you restore wildlife, is to block it off, barricade it from it, right? And they're just fucking idiots, man. They're all fucking idiots. Diane Webb Serini, right? Start calling her Diane Webb Serini. And Ryan Strong, right? Of course, Deputy Chief, right? Finley Carter the third. Oh shit, the third, triple baby, trifecta, triple fucking loser, right? Look at his depositions. I'm sorry, deposition. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I can go on and on, really. Right. Lieutenant Colwell, right? Talk about him, right? But he likes to beat on people. He likes to jump on people and put his crotch on them and shit. But I don't know. I mean, Hype Center, right? I mean, you guys can, right, allow me to go there, I guess, or whatever, and we can settle it, bro. We can settle it like men, right? We can have a modern day duel, right, where you and I get in a sanctioned event. We, may the best man win. But right, of course, then you got to look out for the cheap shots and shit. So that's one thing. The eye pokes and all that shit. So yeah, I mean, there's some considerations there, of course, but like maybe I'll have to wear some goggles, right, so I don't get my eyes gouged out. Cause yeah, I mean, right, they're dirty motherfuckers down there in the Wayne PD. Yes, sir. There's some dirtball motherfuckers. I've seen it all the way from Lieutenant Perez, Lieutenant Colwell. I mean, Lieutenant Omori, right? He got the fuck on. He took off. He went to Ohio. He said, "Fuck this shit. Fuck Michigan." He said, "I'm out. I'm going to Ohio, baby." Well, yeah. Hopefully he beats the Rog What at Ohio. Hopefully someone does him in. Hopefully he decides to enforce laws that don't exist against someone else, and they aren't having it. Let's put it that way. Fuck Amori, Robert Amori, piece of shit. But yeah, others, and of course, don't forget about Jeremy Schneider. Don't forget about old Jay Schneider, right? Fire Marshal, right? Fire Marshal Schneider, right? And yep, he's a fucking he's the real tool, right? Wannabe congressman too, I guess. Congressman Schneider, Councilman Schneider, yeah, he wants to be a councilman, I guess, and write laws that don't exist, and you know, authored the 2025-02 ordinance, right? So he helped to ratify the actions of his firemen, um, retroactively, right? Retroactively, going back in time, right, and making something illegal that was never illegal, right? But then, now it is, because But we're gonna keep the open burn policy too. We're gonna keep that around. And now they're trying to say, oh, what's that? What's that? There's no history to that. Got Tina Parnell in a FOIA saying, oh, that don't even exist, right? That don't even exist. Open burn policy don't exist according to Tina Parnell in the city of Wayne anymore. Don't exist, right? The history of it don't exist. It don't even exist, right? Even though they gave me a copy on video, right? Said this is our ordinance, right? Several times. I mean, Lieutenant Perez, right? Lieutenant Perez, that's the best one. That's the best example, right? He came to my house in June, right? He came out to my house in June of 25 and said I was violating their ordinance, right? This is our ordinance, right? He handed me the open burn policy, right? Now they're claiming that it don't exist, basically. There's no history of it. Can't find it. Tina Parnell said so in a FOIA. Said so in a FOIA. Said so recently, very recently, in fact. So that is interesting, guys. Very, very, very fucking interesting. I gotta say, that is the most interesting shit ever heard. Yeah, it's some fucked shit. Let me tell you, it is some fucked shit that's going on in the city of Wayne, Michigan. But hopefully, Mulholland and some of the others will start talking about it, right? Because we all need to start talking about it. Like, I know I talk about it a little bit, but I mean, really collectively, guys, we need to really start talking about this shit because it runs pretty deep. It seems to me, based on everything I can see, guys, and I've seen quite a bit. I've seen quite a bit and experienced even more than Blackwell. I mean, my malicious prosecution doesn't hold a candle to the Blackwell standard, right? I mean, or the Blackwell standard is now the McFarland standard. I mean, because they did to Blackwell what they did to me is what they did with Blackwell times probably 10, right? I mean, we're talking like, complete and utter lack of probable cause, right? I mean, we're talking, at least in the Blackwell case, charged him with crimes that exist, right? Like they enforced laws that existed against him, right? But yeah, I mean, complete and utter shocking. I mean, completely fucking shocking. What they did to me. I mean, they clearly, I don't know, didn't learn nothing from the Blackwell persecution, right? Rather, or the McFarland persecution. And they're spiraling, guys. The city of Wayne PD, they're spiraling out of control. And, the city of Wayne truly is spiraling out of control. It has been for a long time, but, the chinks in the armor are starting to show a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, sorry for noticing. Sorry for noticing, guys. And, I don't know. Well, I'm not sorry for noticing, but I know that's what you guys want to hear, right? You guys will want to hear that I'm sorry for noticing all your criminal activity, all your improper activity, right? All your misconduct, noticing all this misconduct and lies and contradictions and hypocrisies. And yeah, I'm sorry for noticing. Sorry for noticing that your titties are saggy as all can be. 'Cause you have no respect for liberty, you saggy ass tittied bum. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what your fellow citizen peers feel like voting for. Yeah, we'll see, guys. We'll see what, what it is, right? I mean, the city of Wayne people have been watching, I would think, right? Some people have for sure. And those people know some people, and those people know some people. So, yeah, we're going to find out, what is it that my fellow citizen peers want to vote for, right? I mean, do they want to vote for the same dog shit that we've had for, seem going to vote for, Mulholland, right? That's a good start, but, he can't be the only one, right? Like he was, with Clearyman, right? He had Clearyman, but Clearyman's just, like I said, he's strange, right? He's out there. He's different. And I don't think he was really ready for that, right, type of role. But I mean, I'd take fucking Clearyman over any of them they got up there right now. I mean, fuck, without a doubt. If it's between Eric Clearyman and any of those motherfuckers that are currently there, I'm taking Clearyman 11 times out of 10, right? I mean, there's no fucking doubt. But Mulholland, that was all he had, right? And that's just not enough, right? And fuck, even me, even getting me up there, that ain't enough either, right? I mean, we need, like, my plan is to get up there and run, 4 in 2028, right? At least 3, right? But we really need 4 because we need to ensure that we have a fucking majority of sane people on the city council. Just sane individuals that'll ask critical questions and demand answers from their city manager and their department heads, and they'll be like, hey guys, what the fuck's going on with this? What the fuck's going on with that? What's going on with this case? What's going on with that case? Behind closed doors session. Like, no. We're going to just talk about it openly. We're going to have an open discussion on this shit, right? Because they're really abusing the law, right? They're really violating the law by their actions, right? Their actions of closed session, right? Well, they're using the closed sessions inappropriately, right? They're using them inappropriately, and they're not using them for justified reasons, right? They're using them for reasons that benefit them specifically, right? That's what they're using those sessions for, right? Because they want to keep all the information private. They don't want the discussions to be heard and consumed by the public, right? Of course, because that, of course, is scary shit, right? It's scary shit, right? So yeah, I mean, of course, I don't feel safe in the city of Wayne. I mean, I'm gonna tell you that, guys, right now. I don't feel safe at all in this fucking place because of the Wayne Police and the Wayne Fire Department. Really, the entire department heads, city council. I mean, you got some sick fucks up there. I mean, you got to be a sick fuck to know that someone is sitting in jail because your city enforced a law that didn't exist, right? And then charged him with interference, right? You're enforcing a law that don't even exist, right? Period, point blank. You're enforcing nothing. And then you're also going to charge that person with interference, right? Did he touch you? Did he fucking, did he do anything to you? No. He roamed around in the yard, right? That was at worst what he did, even though clearly the video shows I didn't do that. So they fucking lied in the police report, right? Said I was roaming around in the yard, right? Which, of course, okay, that's not illegal. It's not illegal to walk around your property, right? And so, yeah, that would be all the more indication that, well, if I'm roaming around in the yard, as they say, right, well, then that would kind of undercut their claim that they can't put this fire out, or I have to be detained, I have to be arrested in order for them to put it out because they don't feel safe because I might interfere or I could directly interfere, right? That's what they're saying, right? And so you're like, okay, even though the video evidence shows me on my knees by the sidewalk, right? Completely as far away from the fire pit as I can be without being off the property, right? So I'm completely, totally, this big bad fire that you guys, still haven't put out, right? And then got to detain me, got to arrest me, right? Charge me with something, right? Fuck it, charge him with interference, right? Just charge him with interference. Good job. You get the Officer of the Year award, right? You get Officer of the Year award. Yeah, good job. You maliciously prosecuted the guy. You charged him with a crime that don't exist. Well, you charged him with a secondary crime, right? You couldn't find a predicate charge. You couldn't find a primary charge, so you just charged him with interference, right? A secondary charge, right? Which again, there's no primary charge, but a secondary charge that, yeah, interfering with nothing, right? Yeah, good job, right? Here's Police Officer of the Year award, Elziati. Yeah, Police Officer of the Year award. And you're just like, wow. I can't wait to show that. Can't wait to show that to a court. Can't wait to show that to a judge, jury, everybody. Say, hey, check this shit out, guys. Check this shit out. Because it is something, man. It is something. Right? So, yeah, I don't know. And then you combine the, the 2025 ordinance, right? 2025-02. The McFarland ordinance, right? The open burn ordinance, right? The first formal, actual open burn ordinance, right? Of course, that is void for vagueness and contradicts itself, and just is. 5 pages, right, to inform people of the rules on open burning, right? And then, of course, mathematically speaking, right? Their ordinance effectively outlaws about 98 to 99% of all properties in the city of Wayne, right? You understand? Because by their own rules, right, if you have to have 50 feet, you have to be at least 50 feet away from a property line or a structure, yard. So by those criteria, if you do the math, right, you need at least bare minimum. This is bare minimum, which you can't really have this because, of other reasons I'll get into, right? But basically you need at least 104. Like, let's just say you had a completely, vacant lot, right? You just had a completely vacant lot. And you would need 104 feet by 174 feet, right? Deep. So you need 104 feet of width, right? So if you have 100 feet of width, right, or 75 feet of width, you can't open burn at all. Like, mathematically, you can't do it. 50 feet away from a structure or a property line, you can't open burn. If you're 100 feet, you can't open burn. You got to be at least 104 feet wide, right? So that already shrinks fucking, a lot of people, right? So now your property needs to be at, realistically 120, 150, right, or more. But then, of course, you got to get into the where the house is, right? Because it's got to be in the rear yard. It can't be in the front or the side, according to this open burn ordinance that they passed. So it's got to be in the rear yard, which means, okay. And you got to account for the fact that accessory structures, or however they word it or phrase it, those have to be in the rear yard as well. Have to, no exceptions, right? That's the city of Wayne. That's how, that's what they claiming, right? So you're like, okay, well, if you take all of this and say, okay, this is true, this is true, this is true, well, effectively, right, because of setbacks, right, you got to account for the fact, the actual size of the house, right, takes up space, right? And then, of course, there's a setback requirement, right? So realistically, 4 feet of depth, right? And over 104 feet of width. So realistically, you're probably going to need like 120 to 150 to be safe, and about 200 or so of depth, right? Because if you're at 174, you're right on the edge. If you have an accessory structure in the back, or if you have like property line, anything, right? If you have an accessory structure in the back, and if you have a deep setback, you can't open burn at all. You can't open burn at all. And the reason I know that, right, effectively, in my belief, right, um, 99% of people in the city of Wayne cannot open burn, right? I mean, there might, we might be off by a percent, right? Maybe a half a percent. It might be 98.5, right? 98, right? But I believe it's at least 99%. 99%, mathematically speaking, percent of people in the city of Wayne cannot legally have a fire pit based on, just the requirements of it, right? Because if you're like, okay, shed has to be in the rear yard, right? And then the shed has to be so far away from the house, right? And this is, of course, assuming you have perfectly flat, usable land. It's not wetland. It's not floodplain, whatever, So, yeah, effectively, there's like my property is the only one for sure that you can have an open burn because of the fact that it's 300 feet wide. So definitely enough width, without a doubt, right? And then the average depth of it is 400 feet. So 3 acres, just under. Some parts of it it's 350 feet, other parts it's 450 feet, right? But an average of 400. So 300 by 400 roughly. And that is fucking insane to me, right? The fact is like I'm literally one of the only properties in the city of Wayne. I'm like quite literally possibly the only property in the city of Wayne, Michigan that can legally open burn because, there aren't very many, there are virtually no properties that are more than about 150 feet wide, right? First of all. And then the depth, you know, 200 to maybe 300 feet. 300 feet, no, because like I said, I have 450. I have the most depth out of anybody. But 350, right? There's a couple properties like I said on my particular, in my neighborhood, right? If you start at the Dollar Tree and go down to, not Laurenwood and Glenwood, right? Before you get to Laurenwood, there's only about 7 houses or so, give or take, that, one of which includes mine, right? Or, well, 2 of which, right? Because there's, it's the lot's considered 2, right? Even though it's technically, it's only 1. But for this purpose, it counts for 2, right? So essentially, my neighbor next to me, my other neighbor next to me, and maybe the ones next to them and the ones next to them, maybe they can have an open burn, right? I think they can, depending on how much depth they have, how much width they have. Because I think they all have 150 of width at least. And I think they all, it looks like, from what I can tell, they all have depth, right? So I believe that they're just big enough, right? Just big enough, right? And that's assuming they don't have the shed in the back, right? Because if they have the shed in the back, then they almost certainly, they can't legally have a fire pit, because you need that 50-foot buffer, right, in every direction. You need that 50-foot buffer, which is really a 100-foot buffer, right? 50 by 50. I mean, you're talking 50 feet on this side, 50 feet on this side of the pit in every direction. Well, I mean, do the math. That's 100 feet by 100 feet. And, well, technically 104 feet, because you got to account for the displacement of the fire pit itself, which can only be 3 feet by 3 feet, right? So 103 by 103, but, you got to obviously have space around it, right? So really 105, right? Because you need at least a foot, on each side of it, right? To fucking actually, move it, right? So, yeah, I'd say 105 feet, right? 105 feet. And then, of course, the setback, right? Usually around, at least 50 feet, right? Or so. Sometimes more, depends on the neighborhood. So you could be at 75 feet, you could be at 50 feet, 60, 80, 100, So, yeah, that, and then plus the actual displacement of the house, right? So all of that, and then, of course, wetlands and, places where you wouldn't be able to have a fire pit. Yeah, you're effectively talking a handful of houses in the entire city of Wayne can possibly open burn. I'm the only property for sure, mathematically, without a doubt, you can have an open burn, right? I have several fire pits on this property because I can, right? Because I can legally, I can 50 feet, and fit that 50 by 50 buffer, right? 50 feet in each direction, 100 by 100. You got to have, or 105 by 105, right? Let's be technical. Is what you got to have, right? To even be able to open burn, right? I mean, it's kind of crazy, but that's what they have written up, right? And their stupid, you know, yeah, Trump wasn't part of the political party machine. Yeah, he wasn't at first initially. At first he wasn't, but he always kind of was, right? He always kind of hung out with politicians, knew them, right? Knew the Clintons, knew all kinds of people, dude. So I can't say for sure, but I would say that he was initially probably not as much so as most politicians, but yeah, I mean, Trump, he's a disappointment, though. I mean, he ultimately is a disappointment, but still better than anything we've really had in recent history, which is sad, right? Which is completely and utterly and totally horrifyingly sad in every possible way, but unfortunately there's really nothing that the average man or person can do, right? Nothing we really can do. And he was obviously the better of the two choices, but you're talking about dog shit. And I mean, Trump, at first kind of seemed like he was gonna do some shit, but then he got stonewalled and hired some idiots, and he fucked around and found out a few times, and I don't know, just didn't materialize the way that it could have or should have, or ideally, but it didn't happen, right? And so we have to deal with what is and what occurred. And yeah, but I'd still, like I said, I mean, can't vote for Sleepy Joe, can't vote for Kamala, Hillary, all that bullshit. So that's just like too far for me. It's like Gresham Whitmer. It's like that's fucking horrifying to think that Benson, the governor of Michigan, most likely, beating John James, and so that is fucking not very cool. Not very cool, but hey, what are you gonna do? Not ready to flee yet. Um, don't want to really flee at all, if I'm being honest with you. I just would rather live in America without fear of retaliation and people breaking into my house because I want a cell phone, right? Should go without saying, right? You should be able to, of course, do that and do a lot more, right? Your First Amendment, extends beyond, well, it extends everywhere you go. So yeah, it's unfortunate that clearly established principles are not respected or upheld in the city of Wayne, Michigan. And unfortunately, most importantly, not by the city of Wayne Police Department, or apparently the fire department, or any department head, really, for that matter. So that is a very unfortunate state of affairs, and hopefully something gets done about that. At least let's observe and report it, right? We can at least observe and report what we see, what we know to be true, what we hear to be true, what we've seen time and time again to be true, right? We can notice patterns, and we can notice the obvious, right? Like if something's a lie, right? Like if someone says, like if a police officer says, hey, there's no cameras on that wall, and then you go to that wall and there's cameras on that wall, right? Well, that clearly is a fucking problem, right? That's a problem that people need to know about. And if that officer says, well, there's no cameras on that wall, and they're never apparently at the cameras on the wall right now, right? I'm clearly seeing what I'm seeing on the wall right now. So then, of course, you do a little further investigation because you're like, well, they could say that, we just put those cameras up a day ago or, a minute ago. And of course, there probably wouldn't be any public record of it, even though there's required by law to have public record of all this shit. Right, but I, of course, go watch the videos of, before times, right, before the incident, even before the incident itself, right, before May 20th to 2026 when I was assaulted by Lisa Kobani on those same cameras that the Wayne Police Department are claiming do not even fucking exist, right, even though you're looking at them, like, taking a picture of them while they're telling you they don't exist. And then, of course, you look at the videos that are currently up on the internet right now, right, and you're like, oh, well, those cameras are clearly there, and you're saying that they don't exist. So that is quite interesting of a discrepancy. Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing, the public to be made aware of, right? But also, I want, of course, they're gonna cover it up and pretend like it doesn't exist because that's all they can do. They can't defend this shit, of course. But yeah, I mean, I want the people of Wayne to know. I want everybody to know. And we'll see if anybody cares out there. We'll see if anybody gives a shit that, the police are just outright lying in emails, right? Just publicly lying, right? On the job, just openly lying, which, of course, I suppose they can lie in police reports, apparently, and, they can do a lot of shit. But I don't know. I mean, I know they legally could lie to try to secure a conviction on you, right? I know that. But I don't know. Can they legally just lie and say, hey, Wayne County prosecutor took this case and reviewed it and decided to dispose of it? And then you're like, oh, so then you call the Wayne County prosecutor's office, and then she says, no, that's not true. And then the person that said that, right, Deputy Chief Finley Carter III, he says, well, no, actually, that I was mistaken, supposedly. He was mistaken. He said, well, actually, guys, the truth is that the same prosecutor who prosecuted you for violating a law that didn't exist, Kerry Miller, right? We talked about that law that didn't exist, open burn policy. Well, Kerry Miller ratified that. Bosnick ratified it, right? Jeremy Schneider ratified it. The entire city council ratified it, retroactively ratified it. But they also ratified it, on July 10th, right? Kerry Miller ratified it in court. She went to court and introduced the open burn policy into evidence, right? Open burn policy. She introduced it to the court and gave a copy to my, at the time, counsel, Jermaine Warwick, who, didn't see the obvious either, apparently, right? Conveniently, right? I guess because everyone went on vacation. It was odd, right? The judge, everybody went on vacation except for me. I got to set in jail without bond or bail on a misdemeanor ordinance violation. And it was, really clown world level shit, right? Clown world level shit. And, really fucked up shit, right? So, the courts have been delaying the release of those transcripts for quite some time because I guess they don't want me to use those transcripts to try to seek some sort of transparency or accountability. I don't know. Seems just kind of strange, but it's a strange town in Wayne, Michigan. Us Wayniacs. It's a strange town. One of the strangest towns in the state of Michigan, if not America. The Midwest, maybe America. Probably the Midwest, maybe America. Certainly Michigan. It is a very strange place. And a declining place, unfortunately. And we got to try to turn that around, hopefully soon. Hopefully soon we get it turned around, or I don't know. I mean, I'll be all right? Because I mean, they'll, of course, try to City of Wayne's Brandon Braun, right? So he steals my signs, right? Steals my signs May 18th, right? Disposes of them the same day, laughs about it in my face the same day. Then the next day I go to the city council meeting, try to talk about it, get thrown out before I get a chance to talk about it, right? The fact, well, I already, made Diane Webb and the entire police department aware of it, and there's a record of it, there's an email chain of it, and yeah, the next day, right, I get a door slammed into me by Lisa Cobaney, and then of course we just talked about her cover up, right, or their claiming the video that of course I showed a video, and the video's there, and of course there's two cameras, right? As a matter of fact, there are two cameras on that same wall where that door is, same wall, right? Same door, right? And yeah, it's weird, strange, very, very strange, guys. It is very strange. But yes, right, open burn policy don't exist, right, according to Tina Parnell. And so and then of course those cameras don't exist, right? I'll take you down. We can go right now if you guys want to go right now. But yeah, I don't want to get assassinated down there. It'd be kind of risky business going down there that time of night, right? It'd be a real fucking risk. But I don't know. Maybe we'll go. Because we have balls. Might as well. I mean, honestly, might as well. Wednesday, June 3rd. Ooh-wee. Yeah, hold on, guys. Be right back. We are back. Sorry that took so long, man. I had to do and kind of get it, where we want it, right? We want it